First of all, I never believed that careers are straight lines, and anyone who ever tells me I went for that job and I got it, and then I went for the next job, and I just don't believe them. I think it's all about cul-de-sacs, and you learn a lot in the cul-de-sac. So in some ways, maybe science and technology was my cul-de-sac. I did my degree in science and technology and maths and went into the IT industry, and had a lot of fun as a young graduate. But it didn't make me, want to lead in that space, or it didn't make me jump out of bed in the morning and say, this is the job for me. But I got assigned as a business leader on a project that was delivering a product for a customer on the street. So, men and women were going to buy this product. And I got really interested then in who was going to buy it, and why were they going to buy it, and why do they want it, and why did our brand appeal to them and not other people's. And I suddenly said, that's what I really want to do. I want to be involved in the commercial sort of side of the business. And at the time, the company I worked in had no sort of history. If you started off in the technology team, you kind of stayed in the technology team. So I kind of said, I'm going to have to do something about it myself. So I bought my first house with my partner then, and then husband. So big mortgage for me at the time. I gave up my job, went back and did a full-time MBA because I'd always followed a science track. I didn't have any accountancy, business, economics. Absolutely loved it. Felt my first degree was wasted on me, that I didn't really appreciate it. Absolutely loved the MBA, and decided when I came out of it that two decisions. I was going to move out of IT, and I was going to move out of financial services at the time. And coming out of the MBA, I achieved the first one in the first year. I moved out of IT and got in a commercial role. And then the second year, I was able to move into telecommunications. And I never looked back. And, being a leader was always in me, definitely. But it needed to be the right fit for me. And I suppose if I'd be giving anybody advice, don't be afraid to change. If the fit isn't right, you're not going to be the best you can be in that role. So don't be afraid to, any of those big changes I've made, and they're scary at the time, but just recognize they're going to be scary at the time and move on past it. And certainly, I've never looked back in terms of that career move.
To build on what you were talking about, I have 4 kids, and the youngest is a girl. I mean, we have 2 girls, 2 boys, but she started out thinking that she was very good in science, so we encouraged that. She became an environmental studies major at University of Pennsylvania. But then she veered off to Middle East policy work, and because she had studied abroad, found it fascinating. But then when she actually started working in it, realized, nope, that's not it. And when I said, what do you love? And she said, Mom, you know what I love? Food. She said, and she's tall and lanky, so she said, but I want to change the food systems here in America. She says, our food systems are killing us, and they're killing our environment. So she has gone into that. So she's combined her environmental studies, and now she and 2 women that she's partnered with, who are closer to my contemporaries than hers, are launching a sustainable food business in Washington, D.C. They already have their fresh vegetarian seasonal tacos. They are all the hit of the town. The White House pastry chef was quoted in the Washington Post as saying that they were a life-changing experience. And what they're trying to do is have a place that basically is a role model for other restaurants to say, buying from local farmers, paying workers living wages, fresh, healthy food that's made right in front of you. And so forth. So, and the minute she made that decision, she was like a different person. So that was a long way of saying that follow your passion, and do leverage the skills and schooling and talents. And though you said that was the wrong thing for you, and then your business degree, I thought I was going to be a clinical child psychologist. Didn't work out that way. But I think that all of that, contributes to our effectiveness as professionals in whatever field we pursue. So we never really throw it away. We always integrate it. And so I think pursue your passion, and be as dedicated as you're moved to be, because then you'll be great.
I'm not sure that I would disagree. I think you really do have to follow your passion. As I mentioned, I was going to be an attorney, and I think I would have been miserable, to be quite honest. I really love technology. It's fascinating to me. And just as you had mentioned, being fascinated by a product that you created, something similar, only I started out with, I worked at Lockheed in a classified facility called the Skunk Works, building, I was part of the F-117A stealth fighter team. And so I did the radar absorbing material on the windows of that plane. And, okay, you go, what's a 21-year-old girl doing that, right? And why would she be passionate about that? Well, you know, my father was a colonel in the Air Force. I'm patriotic, and it mattered to me to be doing something that I thought could help our country, as well as something technically fascinating. I mean, you know, a plane that you cannot see on radar is pretty cool. And working underground, under the Burbank airport, that, you know, people had no idea anybody was actually under there, was a pretty cool thing to do. So, I mean, that to me was the start of something that was my passion. And I went from there to working at Apple, building some of the first laptops that were ever created. And they're in the Computer History Museum. I'm very proud of one of my products being there, the Duo and Duodoc. It's exciting, you know, I was part of that team, and so it's just been a really exciting journey. Cisco, we were building the internet, and we did. That's what I did.
When I was 7 years old, my sister was born with Down syndrome. I deliberately bring her up in every conversation I have, because it was a promise I made to myself as a child, because the taboo against intellectual disabilities and mental disabilities, you know, are because we keep it kind of hidden and behind. I remember people judging me, judging my family, looking at all of us to see if there was a common trend and if there was something wrong with all of us, right? That would have fed into a certain imposter syndrome. Both my parents came from farming backgrounds. Neither went to university. Neither of their family, brothers or sisters, went to university either. I remember my first day in university, some professor stood up and he called out the statistics that were against children of non-graduate parents, and the fact that it was pretty much almost impossible for us to graduate, and we probably weren't going to get very good grades, right? So there's just different societal biases that feed in against people. I think, don't be fear-driven. You know, the world is a wonderful place, and there's lots of wonderful, wonderful, wonderful opportunities out there, and you're just limited by your own imagination. For young people, the most powerful time that you have is right now, right this minute. Don't waste the time worrying about things in the past or things in the future, because when you're worrying about the past or the future, you're not being completely powerful in the present moment that you're being in. Trust that you will end up exactly where you're supposed to end up. Trust it and know it.
I think there's two aspects to the pipeline, but as you said, my particular focus is in the STEM area, and we earlier on this morning, Margaret and I were at, as you were yourself, an event that Accenture reported this issue, and it keeps coming back to many of the same issues. But if you start at the far end of the pipeline, there's so many, it's multifaceted, and there's so many factors that are there, but we need to be tackling them one by one. We've agreed that the influence of parents, and that's something we're not addressing sufficiently. We've agreed the influence of teachers, and I think we have to work more with teachers. There's some good initiatives in Ireland happening in that regard. Role models. We have to use different language in marketing careers. It's very clear that for young women, one of the big influences is that they want to make a difference to society. So telling about the impact of the career rather than the title of the career or the disciplinary content of the career. So they want to save lives through, you know, addressing global water challenges, addressing diagnostics in low-resource environments, and so on. But I think it's telling the story in that regard as well. I think the whole learnings we're developing at the moment around new types of exciting education, peer-to-peer learning, collaborative learning. We've seen an amazing development here with Coder Dojo, and just last weekend we had Coolest Projects, which in 4 years has grown to 550 projects. What was quite significant about that and didn't get that much attention was that 30% of those projects were for young women aged between 6 and 15. And that was quite remarkable, and I think if there was a greater focus there so that young women could express themselves, see the excitement of learning, but also see the application of learning in terms of solving real-world problems. But we have to take it in a multifaceted fashion, and it needs major investment. And the point I was making earlier today was it needs a coalition of all the major stakeholders and a very systematic approach, so that we're not coming back year on year and decrying the problem, we're actually coming up with a range of solutions.
And have you personally, because you've been working in the area of ensuring diversity in STEM for quite a long time, have you seen much change?
I've seen very little change, to be honest. I mean, you know, way back we were running programs for young women in physics, and you know, if you increase the percentage from 15 to 20%, you felt you were doing well. But even maintaining it at 20% is difficult. I do think that we have to, as I said, address all the influencing factors, so that when young women in particular around mid-teens are making decisions on their futures, that it's very well informed. We have to tackle the parents. I made the point that the biggest single career in STEM at the moment is around data scientists, data analytics. In the US alone, by 2018, there'll be a shortfall of 150,000 of those. That's mimicked in Europe. Parents, I would suggest, if we got more than 10% of Irish parents who know what data analytics is, know what data scientists do, that we'd be doing very well. We need to tackle that. We need to have, as I say, a very comprehensive and systematic approach to communicating the excitement and the opportunities of the future to those who influence. We have to assist teachers as the second most important influencers. We need to provide the role models. We need to continue having female role models that are showing and talking about their exciting careers. But it has to be persistent, it has to be comprehensive.